I didn't realize my home had become a prison until the day I tried to leave. I was standing in the driveway, my baby balanced on my hip, keys clenched in my hand like they were a weapon I didn't know how to use. The sun was bright, the lawn perfectly trimmed, the American flag on the neighbor's porch snapping proudly in the wind. Everything looked normal. Safe. Beautiful. But my legs wouldn't move. Behind me, the front door creaked open. "Where do you think you're going?" My mother-in-law asked, her voice calm, almost sweet. I froze. That was the moment I understood something terrible. I didn't need bars on the windows to be trapped. I was already locked in. When my husband left for work, we told everyone it was temporary. "It's only a year," he said, kissing my forehead the night before he left. "My parents will help. You'll be safe, I promise." I believed him. God help me. I believed him. He had taken a job overseas, good pay, solid benefits, the kind of opportunity people said you'd be stupid to refuse. We had just had our first baby. I was exhausted, hormonal, and terrified of doing motherhood alone. When his parents offered for us to stay with them until he gets back, it sounded like a blessing. Family support. Stability. Love, that's what they called it. What it really was. Took me months to understand. The first few weeks were fine. Almost warm. My mother-in-law cooked big dinners and insisted I sit while she handled the dishes. My father-in-law fixed things around the house and talked about how proud he was of his son. They told everyone how lucky they were to have me. How grateful I must be. "You're like a daughter to us," my mother-in-law said, squeezing my hand a little too tightly. I smiled. I thanked her. I told myself I was lucky. I didn't notice the small things at first, like how she held onto my mail so it wouldn't get lost. Or how she insisted I give her the baby whenever he cried, saying, "You don't want to spoil him." Or how she casually asked for my debit card one day, laughing, "I'll manage the household money while my son's gone. One less thing for you to worry about." I was tired, I was healing. I was alone. So I handed it over. That was my first mistake. The second mistake was believing silence would keep the peace. At first, I told myself it was normal. She paid the bills, did the grocery shopping, handled everything. If I needed something, I just had to ask. But every ask came with a look, a sigh, a reminder. "Do you really need that? My son works very hard, you know." Other women make do with much less. When I asked about the car, my car, she tilted her head and smiled. "Oh, honey, insurance is expensive. And with the baby, it's safer if I drive. You can go out with me when I run errands." When I mentioned getting a part-time job, she laughed out loud. "For what? You have everything you need right here." Everything. Except freedom. Days started blending together. I stayed inside unless she decided otherwise. Phone calls felt monitored. If I talked too long to my own mother, my mother-in-law would appear in the doorway, arms crossed, listening. "Who was that?" she'd ask. Just curious, always curious. My husband called when he could. The time difference made it hard. When I hinted that things felt off, his voice tightened. "They're helping you," he said. "Please don't start problems. I need to focus on work." So I stopped talking. I learned how to swallow words before they reached my mouth. The first time I realized I was being punished, I didn't even know what I'd done wrong. Dinner was on the table, but my plate was missing. "Oh," my mother-in-law said, glancing at me. "I thought you ate already." I hadn't. I waited until everyone finished. I fed my baby. I smiled. That night, I went to bed hungry. The next day, I noticed my debit card didn't work. She didn't even look surprised. "There must be a problem with the bank," she said. "I'll handle it." Days passed. I asked again. She leaned closer this time. "You don't need money. You live here." Something inside me cracked, but quietly. I started keeping track in my head, counting meals, counting comments, counting how often I was reminded that this was their house, their rules, their generosity. When I cried in the shower, I learned to do it silently. The garage came later. It started as a suggestion. You and the baby might sleep better out there, she said. It's quieter, more space. It wasn't finished. No insulation. A thin mattress on the floor. The smell of oil and dust. I hesitated. Her smile vanished. Are you saying you're too good for it? That night, I carried my baby into the garage while the house slept comfortably behind us. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it was for peace. I told myself everything mothers tell themselves when survival feels more important than dignity. The breaking point didn't come with screaming. It came with a question. My father came to visit unexpectedly. He hadn't seen me in months. When he pulled into the driveway, my heart started pounding like I'd been caught doing something wrong. I walked out to greet him, baby in my arms, limping slightly because my back had been hurting for weeks. He looked at me. Really looked at me. Why didn't you drive? He asked. The words hit me like a slap. I opened my mouth to answer and nothing came out. Behind me, the front door opened. My mother-in-law's voice floated out, sharp and sweet at the same time. She prefers not to, isn't that right? My father's eyes narrowed. I felt something rise in my chest. Fear, shame, anger, all tangled together. I don't have the car, I whispered. Silence stretched out. My father looked from me to her, then back to me. Why? And suddenly I couldn't lie anymore. I don't remember everything I said. I just remember the sound of my own voice shaking as years, months of swallowed pain spilled out in broken pieces. The money, the garage, the control. The way I was always told to be grateful. My mother-in-law laughed. She's exaggerating, she said. She's emotional. But my father wasn't looking at her. He was looking at me. And for the first time since my husband left, someone really saw me. That was the moment the story began to change. But not yet. Because what they did after that, what they tried to take from me next, was worse than everything before. After my father left that day, the house felt different. Quieter but sharper. Like the air itself was waiting to cut me if I moved the wrong way. No one yelled. No one slammed doors. That's how I knew I was in trouble. My mother-in-law didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. She cooked dinner without asking if I'd eaten. She laughed with my father-in-law like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just cracked open a truth she'd worked so hard to bury. That night my phone buzzed out a message from my husband. Why would you say those things to your dad? Mom says you embarrassed her. I stared at the screen, my baby sleeping beside me on the thin garage mattress, his tiny chest rising and falling in the cold air. I typed, deleted, typed again. I told the truth. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, you're stressed, I get it, but they're helping you. Please don't create drama while I'm away. Drama. That's what my life had been reduced to. I didn't reply. The punishment came slowly. Strategically. The next morning, my mother-in-law knocked on the door to the garage. You should limit visits, she said calmly. Your father filled your head with nonsense. I opened my mouth to argue, but she raised a finger. My son doesn't need distractions. If you really care about him, you'll keep things peaceful. Peace. That word followed me everywhere. It was used like a leash. If I asked for money, peace. If I asked to drive, peace. If I cried, peace. And so I learned a new skill. Disappearing without leaving. They started telling people I was unstable. Neighbors stopped smiling the same way. Church friends asked fewer questions. Even my own relatives sounded unsure. When they called, she's overwhelmed, my mother-in-law told them. We're doing our best. Doing their best. Meanwhile, I was counting crackers in the garage because dinner was family only that night. Meanwhile, my phone was taken away to help me rest. Meanwhile, my pain, real physical pain, was dismissed. One afternoon, my back gave out while lifting my baby. I sank to the concrete floor, breath knocked out of me, tears streaming down my face. My mother-in-law stood over me. You're fine, she said. Women exaggerate pain when they want attention. I crawled back onto the mattress that night. Alone. The worst part wasn't the hunger. It wasn't the cold. It was the way they rewrote me. In their version. I was lazy, ungrateful, emotional, a burden, and slowly, I started wondering if they were right. That's what isolation does. It makes you doubt your own reality. I stopped recognizing myself. The woman I used to be, the one who laughed loudly, who had opinions, who drove wherever she wanted, felt like someone I'd imagined. Now, every move required permission. Even my baby felt like he belonged to them more than me. He's calmer with me, my mother-in-law would say, lifting him from my arms. You're too tense. He feels that. So I learned to hold my breath around my own child. The money became the sharpest weapon. I discovered one day by accident that my husband's paycheck was larger than I'd been told. Much larger. I overheard my father-in-law bragging on the phone about renovations they were planning, about vacations, about investments. That night, I asked a question I wasn't supposed to ask. How much is he actually sending? The room went silent. My mother-in-law's face hardened. You don't need to worry about adult matters, she said. I'm his wife, I replied, my voice shaking. That's my money too. The slap wasn't loud, but it echoed inside me. Not her hand. Her words, you should remember your place. That was the night I realized this wasn't misunderstanding. This was control. I started hiding moments of myself again, writing notes in my head, memorizing dates, saving small details like evidence, even though I didn't know yet what I was building. I found a spare phone in a drawer one day. Old, cracked, no service. I hid it under the mattress. At night, while my baby slept, I wrote messages to myself. What happened? What was said? How I felt. Proof that I wasn't crazy. The breaking point came in public. My husband's parents hosted a family gathering. Relatives I barely knew filled the house. Laughter echoed. Food overflowed the table. I stood in the corner, holding my baby, invisible. Someone asked why I looked so thin. Before I could answer, my mother-in-law smiled. She's on a diet. Very dramatic about it. Laughter followed. Something inside me snapped. I'm hungry, I said. The room went silent. My mother-in-law's smile froze. What did you say? I said, my voice trembling but loud. I'm hungry. All the time. Gasps. Whispers. She moved fast, gripping my arm tightly, nails digging into my skin. You're making a scene, she hissed. Do you want my son to hear about this? And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. They weren't afraid of my pain. They were afraid of my voice. That night, I finally spoke to my father again, from the hidden phone, in a whisper. In the dark. I need help, I said. There was silence. On the line, then his voice broke. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I was ashamed. Because I was scared. Because I didn't know how to leave a prison that didn't look like one. But they sensed the shift. The next morning, my mother-in-law stood in the garage doorway, arms crossed. You're becoming a problem, she said. And problems have consequences. I held my baby tighter. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about control anymore. This was about survival. And what they tried to do next? What they almost succeeded in doing would have taken everything from me. The night before I left, I didn't sleep. I lay awake on the thin mattress in the garage. My baby curled against my chest, listening to the house breathe around us. Pipes knocking. A distant television laugh. Footsteps overhead. Every sound felt like a warning. I knew something was coming. I could feel it the way animals sense storms before the sky changes color. My mother-in-law had been watching me more closely, asking too many calm questions, smiling too carefully. They knew I was slipping out of their control, and people like that don't let go easily. It happened the next morning. I was packing a small diaper bag when my mother-in-law appeared in the doorway, blocking the light. We need to talk, she said. Her voice was gentle. That scared me more than yelling ever could. She sat down on a folding chair across from me, crossed her legs and folded her hands like this was a meeting she'd scheduled weeks ago. You've been very emotional lately, she began. Unstable. I didn't answer. She continued. I spoke to my son. He agrees you need professional help. My heart started pounding. What kind of help? I asked. She tilted her head. The kind where someone else makes decisions for a while. The room felt like it was shrinking. You mean? I couldn't finish the sentence. She smiled. Temporary. Just until you're well again. I looked down at my baby. You don't get to decide that, I said quietly. Her smile disappeared. You live in my house, she snapped. You eat my food. You use my money. You will do what's best for this family. That word again. Family. She stood up. If you cooperate, this can be easy. If you don't. She paused. Well, courts don't favor unstable mothers. My hands were shaking. That was the moment fear turned into clarity. They weren't trying to help me. They were trying to erase me. I waited until the house emptied. My father-in-law left for work. My mother-in-law went upstairs to rest. The silence pressed down like a held breath. I moved fast. I grabbed my baby, the hidden phone, my ID, and the one thing I'd kept secret. A small envelope my father had mailed weeks ago after our last call. Cash. Just in case, he'd said. I didn't know if I'd ever get another chance. I stepped out of the garage, heart pounding so loudly, I was sure they could hear it through the walls. I walked down the driveway barefoot, afraid the sound of shoes would give me away. At the end of the street, my father's car was waiting. When I saw him, I broke. I cried the way you cry when your body finally understands it's safe. He didn't ask questions. He just took the baby, opened the door, and said, "You're coming home." The fallout was immediate. Missed calls, voicemails, messages, swinging between rage and fake concern. You're kidnapping the baby. You're destroying this family. Come back and we can fix this. My husband called that night. I almost didn't answer. When I did, his voice was tight, confused. Why didn't you tell me it was this bad? He asked. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it hurt too much not to. I did, I said. You just didn't listen. Silence. Then, my mom says, I don't care what your mom says, I interrupted, surprising even myself. I care about what happened to me. I told him everything. The garage. The money. The threats. The plan to declare me unfit. By the time I finished, he was crying. But something inside me had changed. His tears didn't move me, the way they once would have. The truth came out fast once I was gone. My father helped me file reports. We gathered records, bank statements, messages, witness accounts. When confronted with evidence, my in-laws did what people like them always do. They played the victims. She misunderstood. We were trying to help. She's ungrateful. But this time I wasn't alone. The narrative didn't belong to them anymore. The court didn't see an emotional woman. They saw a pattern. Control. Financial abuse. Isolation. They saw a mother protecting her child. My husband flew back early. When he walked into my father's house and saw me something broke in his face. I was thinner, older, harder. I failed you, he said. Double quotes. Yes. I replied. It was the hardest word I've ever spoken. We didn't reconcile right away. We went to counseling. Separate and together. Slowly. Carefully. Some wounds don't close just because someone finally apologizes. As for my in-laws, they lost access. To me, to my child. To the control they fed on. The house that once felt like a fortress became irrelevant. Power doesn't survive exposure. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the woman I was in that garage, quiet, hungry, afraid. I want to reach back through time and tell her this. You are not dramatic. You are not weak. You are not ungrateful. You were surviving. And survival can look like silence. Until at DOESN single quotes T. Today, I drive my own car. I manage my own money. I sleep in a room with walls that feel like protection, not punishment. And when my child cries, I hold him without fear. I tell my story because someone listening right now is standing in their own driveway, keys in hand, wondering why their legs won't move. If that's you, you're not crazy, you're not alone, and this doesn't have to be the end.